bar chords. This is probably one of the physically the hardest things that you're going to have to do as a guitar player. But it's going to be the most rewarding because it gives you so many tools to put in your box. Okay, let's talk about the E major again. Okay, and we're going to work on the three chords that we looked at, the E major, the A major and the D. Okay, so let's start with the E major. Well, at the moment, what we're doing here basically is if we had another fret down here, remember our invisible fret? Well, basically the neck has been cut off at the E point. But if the fretboard continued down there, to make this E shape, what we'd have to do is cover up these bottom two strings and also cover up the top one to make this shape sound proper. Okay, we don't have to do that because the neck has been cut there. But let's say we wanted to play the same shape and move it. And what we have to do is take this shape up and make what they call a bar with this finger. Okay? So the first way to do this is to practice just getting all 6 strings with one finger across the fretboard. Okay? It doesn't matter whether it's a chord or not. It is actually a chord, but don't worry about it. Okay? Just to get the sound. Again, if we get this in the middle of it, you're kind of arcing your finger a little bit like that. So you need to have this finger flat. Here's a good tip. Just roll the finger slightly sideways because the front of this finger is like a bit of a blancmange there, okay? So it's a bit difficult to try and get every note fretted there without a great deal of pressure. Just roll it sideways and you find that that part of the finger is a little bit bonier, okay? You'll get a better result. Okay? So what am I pointing to now? Well, I'm pointing to the E string. So remember our E, F, G. So what I'm going to do now is cut the neck off at the G point. So whatever shape we put in behind here now is a G something, whether it be major or minor. Because I'm pointing to the E string, I've now got to use the E shapes. So let's start with the major shape. And there's our major shape, which came from down here. Notice I'm using different fingers because I've got to allow this one to create the bar. Okay? If I was just playing it normally, I would use those 3 fingers. Because it's the bar, I've changed fingers. So I'm sliding up to G, pointing to the note, making the bar, putting the shape in behind it. Now again, make sure you've got every single note. If there is a... check your strength, and also check whether your fingers are not interrupting. A lot of guys do that, they flatten the fingers. Now these fingers bend both ways. We want a nice arc over that one. Okay, so there's your G major chord. How do we make it minor? This underneath finger, drop it down 1 fret. In this case, we take it off. Now we have G minor. Okay, so we've looked at now the G major chord. Removing the underneath finger again will make it a G minor chord. So now let's go back to when we applied the notes to the fretboard from the scale. Do you remember that? If you know these notes going up the fretboard, then when you point to them and you make the bar chord, that is the name of the chord. So it's vitally important that you know these notes on the fretboard. Okay, so let's show you something that we can do. We can now play every single major and minor bar chord that there is. Let's break it down. First of all, find F. E, F. Point to the F, make the bar. What string are we pointing to get that F? The E. Therefore, we must use the E shapes. Here's the bar, E major, F major now. There it is. Okay. Okay, so let's find A. There it is. E, F, G, A. Or if you remember these first 3 dots, what does it spell? Bag. B, A. Okay, so what do? We point to the note. Point it to an A. Make the bar. But, there's a little word he said in there, it's flat. What do when it make it flat? It goes down that way. So now we make the bar across the A flat note. What string were we pointing to? The E string, so again we use the E shape. A flat major. Where we have a gap between notes, for example, G and A, we could flatten the note. So it's the in-between note of G and A there. Or what about if we sharpened a note? Now, we haven't used that word before. Sharpen is when you go up. So hang on a minute, we could call this note G sharp, or we could call it A flat. Anywhere where you have a gap, we can call it a sharp or a flat. For example, if we now go up to the next gap, which is A and B, it could be B flat, or it could be A sharp. Where does that not happen? It doesn't happen between B and C. If you say C flat, it's actually a B note, so there is no such thing as a C flat. Consequently, if you try and say B sharp, it's not. When you move the B up one fret, it becomes C. So these notes that have a semitone gap, or no fret if you like, you can't sharpen them and you can't flatten them. Okay? So no C flat, no B sharp. But we can now play any one of these notes here to give us a major chord or a minor chord. Consequently, you can do the same with the next string, which was the A string. So therefore, if we're pointing to a note on the A string, we must use the A shapes, major or minor. Again, we have to change fingers, so we're going to keep number 1 free, and we're going to use numbers 3, 4 and 2 for that, okay? So let's do some minor stuff here. Let's start with a minor chord, A minor, one of my favourite chords. Okay? So if I now wanted to move and play a D minor chord, well, instead of playing what I call the baby chords down here, which is sometimes a little bit tricky to get to straight away, what we can do is we can point to the D note. Let's find it. Here's A, B, C, there's our D. Make the bar at the D. Okay, now what string will we be pointing to get that note? It's the A string. So therefore I've got to use the A shape. In this case we want a minor chord, so we put that shape in behind it. There's our minor shape. So this is now D,